What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, talking today about Doom Eternal because I finally got a chance to play it, and it is incredibly violent, it is incredibly good, and honestly, it is incredibly hard. Over the course of this weekend, I was at Quakecon 2019, and while I was there, they had all sorts of different demo booths set up that allowed me to play things like Wolfenstein, the newest expansions of Elder Scrolls, things like the really crappy port of Blades, which I'm going to be talking about tomorrow on Nintendo Switch. But the main thing that I went there for entirely was to sit down and finally get a chance to pick up the controller and play Doom Eternal. I haven't been talking about the game much in general because I feel like Doom 2016 was fantastic. It was brutal, it was fast, it was an exceptionally fun game. And I've been afraid of trying to hype up Doom Eternal too much. I want Eternal to be great. I want it to be a giant selling thing that finds its own personal fan base. But I've been trying my best not to get myself overly into it. But now that I've had a chance to play it, Doom Eternal is 1,000 times better than I ever could have thought. Doom Eternal, let me just get into the first thing that I think absolutely needs to be addressed. This game is hard. A lot of the people who end up buying Doom Eternal will not beat it. Now the reason I say that is because there is basically a series of tests. The entire game is one long hallway, the same way the first game was, with lots of different winding paths and hidden secrets and lots of different chances to fight some big, giant, gory demons. The biggest thing about this, though, that makes it feel so dramatically different from Doom 2016, in my opinion, is that now there is such a technical focus to the fighting. Now, in the first game, you could actually beat Doom 2016 with a single weapon. If you put a bunch of really good mods on something like the machine gun, you could completely finish the thing from start to finish with a singular device. And while that wasn't exactly fun, it was certainly possible. In Doom Eternal, this is not. You have to constantly switch weapons, switch tactics, pivot the way you play, because these demons are absolutely ruthless and programmed to just push you to the ends of your wits. Let me just show you a random fight. So this is all stuff that they actually recorded for an official demo. I wasn't allowed to do any capture, but they did say that I could use this trailer footage and stuff for demonstrative purposes. The demo is super fun, and what you're seeing in this video is basically what I got a chance to do. But what really struck me is that when you're fighting stuff, everybody has a weak point. The bigger the enemy, the tougher the weak point is to hit. Like if you hit somebody like this that is a walking spider tank with gooey brains, it has a turret on top that will shred you like Swiss cheese. But thankfully, you can shatter this. Almost every single enemy has a weak point. Some part of it that can be shot directly that'll make it break and give you an opportunity to make it deal less damage. This doesn't necessarily seem to make them faster to kill, but it definitely makes it where you yourself will live longer. A lot of times in many of these different arenas that I ended up being thrown into, I would be faced with tons of different styles of enemies at once. Basically, you'd have walking tanks, giant bashers, and enemies called prowlers that can teleport behind you the millisecond you stand still. So there's this really intense sense of dancing. It feels like you're trying to rush from place to place. There's this perpetual sense of motion, of trying to lock on, get another hit, get another power-up, and just perpetually stay on the move, because if you freeze, you are dead. As a way to try and encourage you, though, I definitely think that the newest system in this that really helps the entire flow feel much more natural is that there's these new things that have been put in the game, like a flamethrower and a grenade launcher that can be used with shoulder buttons. So this demo I played was actually on a computer that was extremely powerful, because that's almost how all these demos are done, and it had an Xbox One controller, so I could play it with keyboard and mouse, or I could play it with the controller. And I did a little bit of both just for testing purposes. I think I prefer it a little bit more on mouse and keyboard, because there is a lot of different functionality in this. You're going to be using your flamethrower to melt the armor off people. You're going to be using your chainsaw to dice people in half, which gives you an ammo bonus. But additionally, you're going to be doing your glory kills. When you weaken an enemy, you can walk up and punch them, crush them to pieces, and get a little tiny boost in health. It's about trying to find the correct way to play in each situation. Now, I'm using the word correct there very, very specifically. In my opinion, there is a right way and a wrong way to play Doom Eternal, and I feel like this is a little bit of a weird choice. It works. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I do fully believe that there is going to be a ton of people who purchase this game who are unable to finish it. Even on normal difficulty throughout the course of this demo, I was constantly being challenged in a way I could not have ever predicted. I was constantly trying to test this entire map through trial and error. I was having to try and see which enemy would be weakest, which enemies would mess up, which enemies could I actually do a glory kill on to have that tiny animation to catch my breath. It was brutal. It was the definition of rip and tear. Now let me just talk a little bit about the new motion. So one of the major changes they've decided to do with Doom Eternal over Doom 2016 is the ability to do lots of different motions. There's now an air dash that allows you to do like a little tiny boost in midair. There is the ability to do things like swing off monkey bars to get a bunch of vertical height instantaneously, and there's also the ability to climb on walls. Each of these things is rather cartoonish, which is definitely a little bit shocking. While you're doing them, it definitely has this very, very goofy feel to it. It's very instantaneous though. Something I had one of my subscribers asking me is saying, does this all feel responsive? When you're actually playing the game and you're sitting there trying to take on 50 different armies of the dead simultaneously, are you able to do exactly what you want? Something I think definitely is a major problem of some modern games is when you're playing them, there is this wall between you and the experience. There is a physical barrier, which is how much you can interact with it. Like some games will have a delay when you're trying to swing a weapon, or there will be some sort of stupid wind-up when you're trying to use a big, powerful gun. None of this exists in Doom Eternal. What you want to do is always at your fingertips. There were so many times during this demo where I was able to just run at full speed through a room at like 50 miles an hour, scooping up different armor pieces and trying to just get myself decked out, looking for secrets to get another 1-up, which basically makes it where when you run out of health, you can jump right back up immediately instead of experiencing a load screen back to the previous checkpoint. And while I was rushing through all these environments, trying my best to not just meet an untimely demise, I noticed that everything was exactly the way I wanted. I did not want to change a single thing. When I was trying to kill people, I didn't have to wonder which button to press. When I needed to chainsaw that next enemy, there was no hesitation. There is an innate instinct to the controls of Doom Eternal that are fantastic. This is seriously some of the quickest gameplay I have ever experienced that manages to be so tough and so fair simultaneously. I think that is great. I do think though that there's going to be a lot of people in this who end up having to play it on an easier difficulty. Now the reason I keep looping back to difficulty is because certainly one of the most bizarre aspects of this game is how weak you actually are. When you're playing it, it seems like you're this unstoppable kill train, just scooting along, punching people to pieces and getting headshots along the way. But if you really take a moment to hesitate and really just kind of take in your surroundings, you will be turned into gooey applesauce. Yeah, do you see this picture of applesauce? That's basically the Doomslayer if you make a singular mistake. It definitely seems like the Doomslayer is weaker in a life sense. He is not as good at taking damage as he once was. But additionally, with all the new tools we've been given, like being able to spot different objectives and of course double dash and air jump, I definitely think that he is more deadly as a trade-off. This is something that I think is actually a very smart choice. I had a chance to talk to some of the developers during the course of Quakecon, and something a lot of them said was that they thought that Doom 2016 was super great. They were super happy with it, and they wanted to try and find a new way to do things. I mean, the last Doom game was fantastic. It did so much exactly the way we would desire. But separately from that, trying to improve upon that formula requires basically reinventing it. You cannot just pour in more magic and hope you get better results. It requires you to spend just a little bit more time reinventing the wheel to make it feel bigger and better, and they really did pull it off. Now, obviously, we are many months away from the release of Doom Eternal, and things could change. They were very clear about the fact that certain aspects of even this demo you've seen clips of here will be reworked. They're talking about maybe changing colors on the UI, maybe changing a little bit about how enemies react, but in general, from what I've played so far, it is fantastic. I am going to be playing it. I'm going to be reviewing it. I'm going to be playing this thing the freaking second I can, and I hope we all get a chance to play it together. I'm really excited to see the online, I'm excited to see the versus multiplayer, and I'm excited just to be the Doom Slayer. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I actually got this big, huge picture signed by all the developers, and it's one of those things that at the time I was like, okay, that's cool. After playing the demo, I think I'm going to frame this in my office, which is cheesy, but I am really blown away by this game. I am really blown away by this development team. You guys, damn, you did it. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.